A story about a little black girl helping a millionaire fix his Mustang, and the shocking moment when he notices the ring on her finger is one that blends humility, innocence, and unexpected lessons about life. At first glance, the image of a millionaire with an expensive car like a Mustang instantly paints a picture of power, privilege, and control. A man in such a position may believe he holds all the answers and resources, but life has a way of humbling even the wealthiest individuals. When his prized car breaks down, he likely assumes that no one outside of trained mechanics or expensive service professionals can lend him help. Yet the twist begins when a little girl, someone society might overlook due to her age and background, steps forward with confidence and offers assistance. This interaction itself is powerful. It reminds us that knowledge and capability are not tied to wealth, age, or status. The girl's willingness to help reflects not only her resourcefulness, but also a fearless sense of empathy. Children often act with sincerity and courage because they do not carry the pride or hesitation that adults sometimes do. For the millionaire, it must have been surprising, maybe even uncomfortable, to see someone so young and unexpected provide help in a situation where his own power seemed limited. It flips the roles. The wealthy man becomes vulnerable, while the child becomes the problem solver. As the girl works on the car, perhaps using knowledge she picked up from watching family members or simply through natural curiosity, the millionaire sees beyond her small frame and realizes her determination. This becomes symbolic of the greater truth that wisdom and strength can come from anyone. Society often dismisses children, women, or minorities, assuming they have little to offer, but moments like this force people to confront their own biases. In this way, the millionaire not only receives help but also a lesson in humility. The climax of the story, however, is when he notices the ring on her finger. That small detail adds a new layer of depth. The ring could symbolize many things: a gift from a loved one, a family heirloom, or even a reminder of a bond far beyond her years. For the millionaire, who likely sees rings as symbols of wealth or luxury, this simple ring on the hand of a little girl may carry a meaning that far outweighs material value. It may tell him a story of her background, of love, of faith, or of strength that he could never buy with money. That ring forces him to look at her not just as a child or a helper, but as someone with a rich story of her own. The lesson here is profound. True value does not come from riches, expensive cars, or material possessions. True value lies in character, in the stories we carry, and in the courage we show to help others even when the world underestimates us. The little girl becomes more than just a helper in that moment. She becomes a teacher. She shows the millionaire that humility opens doors, that wisdom can come from the most unexpected places, and that material wealth is not the highest form of richness. For the audience, this story is a reminder to respect everyone equally. We should never judge someone's ability or worth based on appearances. A child, a cleaner, a stranger on the street, each has lessons to teach and strengths to share. The millionaire's shock at the ring highlights how blind we often are to the deeper meaning in people's lives, but also how quickly our perspectives can change when we pay attention. In the end, this is a motivational reminder to walk through life with humility, to appreciate the strength of others regardless of who they are, and to remember that true wealth is measured not in possessions, but in wisdom, kindness, and human connection. Wisdom and ability can come from unexpected places, and this story captures that truth beautifully. When a little girl steps forward to help a millionaire fix his Mustang, it challenges the deeply rooted assumption that only certain people are capable of solving problems. Society often teaches us to associate knowledge with age, education, wealth, or status, but real wisdom can exist in the most surprising corners of life. The girl, young and underestimated, shows that insight is not restricted to those who have resources or experience. It can emerge in anyone who is observant, curious, and willing to take action. For the millionaire, who likely sees himself as someone used to being in control, this moment becomes a humbling experience. He may have thought of the child as too small or inexperienced to contribute anything meaningful, especially in a situation involving his prized luxury car. Yet, when she confidently offers her help, it disrupts his assumptions and forces him to consider that wisdom is not monopolized by the rich or the powerful. This is where the lesson begins, the recognition that knowledge is not confined to social categories. The girl's ability may come from many places. Perhaps she grew up watching a family member fix cars, learning by observing. Maybe she has a natural curiosity that drives her to understand how things work. For children often absorb more than adults realize, and their fresh perspective allows them to see solutions that others overlook. What makes her act extraordinary is not only the skill she displays, but the courage to step forward when most people would hesitate. In that moment, she demonstrates that ability is not about titles or appearances, but about initiative, awareness, and a willingness to act. This theme resonates in everyday life. So often, people are dismissed because of how they look, how old they are, or where they come from. Yet history and daily experience show us countless examples of underestimated individuals rising to meet challenges. Great ideas have come from those with no formal training. Acts of courage have been carried out by those considered powerless. The story of the little girl fixing the Mustang reminds us to open our eyes to the potential around us, because brilliance and wisdom are not limited to the circles we expect them to come from. For the millionaire, this encounter may be more than just about fixing a car. It is a turning point where he realizes that wealth does not equal superiority. In fact, his expensive car has left him helpless, while the young girl with little material wealth becomes the one in control of the situation. This role reversal is symbolic. It teaches him and us that we should never underestimate people based on their social position. Often, those we overlook carry knowledge and resilience shaped by life experiences we cannot imagine. This point also speaks to humility in our own lives. Many times, people ignore advice or assistance because it comes from someone they think is in some way. Yet, true wisdom requires listening with an open mind, regardless of the source. The millionaire's moment of surprise when the little girl helps him is a reflection of how often we miss opportunities to learn because we dismiss the unlikely teacher standing before us. Another powerful layer is the innocence of the child herself. She does not help the millionaire to prove him wrong or to gain recognition. She helps simply because she can. This pure act emphasizes that ability is not tied to ego. True wisdom comes from using what you know to make a difference, no matter how small it seems. In her simple act of service, she embodies the idea that greatness often arrives in ordinary, overlooked moments. In the end, the lesson is clear: wisdom and ability are gifts spread widely across humanity, not privileges reserved for a select few. We must not let appearances blind us to the possibility that the smallest voice can hold the greatest truth, or that the least expected person can hold the key to the solution we seek. The little girl fixing the millionaire's Mustang is not just a story about a car, but a reminder to value people for who they are and what they can contribute, no matter how unlikely they may seem. Humility is a lesson for everyone, regardless of status, and the story of the millionaire and the little black girl fixing his Mustang brings this truth into sharp focus. A millionaire is often surrounded by privilege, comfort, and the illusion of control. He has the money to buy luxury cars, hire experts, and solve most problems with a single phone call. Yet, when his prized Mustang breaks down, he is left vulnerable, standing helpless beside something he values but cannot repair. It is at this moment that humility enters his life in an unexpected way. Instead of a highly paid mechanic arriving to save the day, it is a little girl, someone he might never have imagined could help, who steps forward. The act of being helped by someone far removed from his world forces the millionaire to confront his own limitations. Humility often comes from being placed in situations where money, power, or influence cannot provide immediate solutions. In this case, the Mustang becomes a symbol of how fragile material possessions are and how quickly wealth loses its meaning when faced with real problems. The girl's quiet confidence contrasts sharply with his discomfort, showing that humility is not about weakness, but about recognizing that wisdom and strength exist outside one's own control. Humility teaches us to value people for their character and actions, not their status or appearance. The millionaire may have looked at the girl and seen only her youth, her background, or her simplicity, dismissing her as someone who had nothing to offer. But in that critical moment, she became the one with the knowledge and courage to act. Humility means being willing to accept help even from those we least expect it from, and to appreciate that greatness can exist in anyone. The millionaire's lesson is that being rich does not make him superior. In fact, without the girl's help, he would remain stranded. This story also shows that humility is not about lowering oneself, but about elevating one's understanding of others. The little girl did not need wealth or recognition to demonstrate her worth. She acted out of kindness and skill, without arrogance or expectation. Her actions show that true strength is quiet and does not demand attention. For the millionaire, humility comes not only from receiving her help, but from realizing that she gave it freely, with no thought of reward. That kind of generosity cannot be bought, and it humbles even the proudest hearts. In life, humility allows us to grow. Those who think they know everything shut themselves off from learning, while those who accept that wisdom can come from anywhere remain open to growth. The millionaire may have thought his position in society placed him above others, but being helped by a little girl forced him to see that status does not define intelligence or value. This shift in perspective is what humility creates, a new way of seeing people as equals, each capable of teaching us something. Humility also brings connection. When the millionaire accepted the girl's help, he crossed the barrier of pride and entered into a human relationship built on trust and respect. That connection was not about wealth or power, but about shared humanity. In that moment, they were simply two people, one in need and one offering help. Humility strips away the illusions of superiority and reminds us that, at our core, we all rely on one another. The most lasting impact of humility is how it changes the heart. Once a person has experienced being helped by someone they underestimated, they rarely forget it. The millionaire may leave that encounter with a new respect for people he once overlooked, carrying a memory that reshapes how he treats others. This is the gift of humility. It breaks pride and replaces it with gratitude. In the end, for humility is not a loss but a gain. It frees people from arrogance and opens their eyes to the beauty and strength in those around them. The millionaire's lesson from the little girl is timeless. See, no matter how high we rise in wealth or status, we will always need others. And sometimes, the ones we need the most are the ones we least expect. Symbols hold deeper meaning, and in this story, the ring on the little black girl's finger carries a message far greater than its physical appearance. At first, the millionaire may have seen her as nothing more than a child who somehow knew how to fix his expensive Mustang. That alone was enough to surprise him. But the moment his eyes fall on the ring, the entire perception of who she is begins to shift. To him, a ring is likely an accessory of wealth, a status symbol worn to display power or luxury. But on her finger, it represents something entirely different: heritage, love, faith, or a personal story that no amount of money could ever buy. This detail reminds us that objects are not defined by their material, but by the meaning attached to them. For the millionaire, used to possessions that symbolize status, the ring becomes a humbling reminder that true value is emotional, spiritual, or symbolic. It could have been a gift from her parents, perhaps passed down as a family heirloom, representing resilience and pride in her heritage. Or it may have been a simple trinket carrying sentimental meaning, a reminder of someone she loved deeply. Whatever the origin, the ring instantly tells him that her life carries stories and depth beyond what his wealth can capture. The deeper lesson is that symbols often carry invisible weight. In society, we sometimes dismiss people because we only see the surface: their clothes, their job, their age. But a small detail like a ring can reveal an entire world of experience, connection, and meaning. For the millionaire, that ring breaks through his shallow assumptions. He realizes that this little girl is not just a stranger fixing his car, but a person whose life is enriched by values, traditions, and relationships that money cannot measure. The ring also symbolizes strength. For a child to wear something so meaningful suggests that she is growing up with a strong sense of identity. It may remind her daily of who she is, where she comes from, or the values her family has instilled in her. That kind of strength is what allowed her to approach a stranger with confidence, unafraid to help despite the difference in their worlds. The millionaire, who likely wears expensive watches or jewelry to assert his status, now sees how a simple ring can carry more power than all his luxuries combined. This moment teaches us not to overlook the hidden depth in others. Just as the millionaire misjudged the girl until he noticed the ring, we too are often guilty of making assumptions without recognizing the meaning behind someone's actions or possessions. Every person carries symbols of their journey, whether in objects, words, or behavior, that reveal who they are. Respecting these symbols means respecting the people themselves. The ring can also be seen as a metaphor for dignity. Rings form circles, and circles are symbols of wholeness, unity, and eternity. On the girl's finger, it represents the completeness of her spirit, the unbroken strength of her identity. For the millionaire, it is a reminder that wholeness does not come from wealth, but from inner strength and the values passed down through family and culture. In this way, the ring elevates the story from a simple act of help to a profound lesson in what truly matters in life. Another layer is the contrast between appearance and meaning. To an outsider, the ring may not look expensive, but its significance outweighs even the costliest diamond. This contrast challenges the way society often measures value. The millionaire may own rings worth millions, but they lack the soul carried in the simple ring of the little girl. That realization humbles him and invites us to rethink what we consider valuable in our own lives. Ultimately, the ring is a symbol of unseen richness. It tells the millionaire and us that wealth is not defined by cars, mansions, or material possessions. True wealth lies in the love we carry, the memories we cherish, and the identity we embrace. The little girl's ring becomes the centerpiece of the story because it forces the wealthy man to see her not as a child from a different world, but as someone whose story is priceless. It shifts the balance of power in the encounter and leaves him speechless, not because of her skill alone, but because of the depth she represents through that small but powerful symbol. Never underestimate the power of kindness, because sometimes the smallest gestures can leave the most lasting impact. In the story of the little black girl helping the millionaire fix his Mustang, her act of kindness may have seemed simple to her, but it carried a weight that transformed the entire situation. She had no obligation to step forward. She could have ignored the man struggling with his car or assumed that someone as wealthy as him would find help easily. Yet she chose to act, not out of duty or expectation, but from a place of genuine willingness to help another human being. That is the purest form of kindness. What makes her kindness so powerful is that it crossed social boundaries. She was just a little girl, someone the millionaire likely never imagined would be in a position to assist him. He represented wealth and privilege, while she represented simplicity and humility. By choosing to help, she broke through those barriers and showed that kindness does not ask about status, background, or appearance. It connects people as equals. In that moment, they were not a millionaire and a child. They were simply one person in need and another willing to help. Kindness also has the power to change perspectives. For the millionaire, her act likely sparked reflection. He might have believed that those who are less fortunate always need help rather than being the ones to offer it. But her simple gesture challenged that belief, showing him that everyone has the ability to give, regardless of their circumstances. True kindness is not measured by how much you have to give, but by your willingness to give what you can. A millionaire donating money may not touch hearts the way a child offering time and effort does, because sincerity cannot be bought. Her kindness also demonstrated courage. It takes boldness for a child to approach an adult stranger, especially one who seems powerful. Yet she stepped in without hesitation, guided by compassion rather than fear. This courage amplified the impact of her act, because it showed the millionaire and everyone who hears the story that kindness is not about waiting for the perfect conditions, but about acting when you see a need. For the strength to offer help in the face of intimidation is what makes kindness so transformative. Kindness has a ripple effect as well. When one person extends it, it inspires others to do the same. The millionaire who may have been focused on wealth and appearances might leave that encounter with a new outlook, more willing to show generosity and respect to people he previously overlooked. A single act of kindness can soften pride, dismantle prejudice, and spark gratitude in ways that logical arguments or force never could. The little girl, without knowing it, planted a seed that could change the way he treats others. Another dimension to this is the contrast between what she gave and what he expected. The millionaire had wealth, but in that moment, wealth was useless. His car was broken, his pride was fragile, and he was helpless. She gave him something money could not buy, genuine assistance rooted in kindness. That contrast is why the impact was so strong. It reminds us that kindness carries a value that cannot be measured in financial terms. It heals pride, builds bridges, and leaves impressions that last far longer than material gifts. On a broader level, this story shows that kindness is a form of quiet power. We often think of power as control, influence, or dominance, but true power can be found in the ability to uplift others without asking for anything in return. The girl's kindness was not loud or dramatic, yet it reshaped the entire dynamic of the encounter. The millionaire, who might have thought himself above her, became the one receiving her generosity. That reversal teaches us that kindness has the power to humble, to elevate, and to transform. In the end, the lesson is clear: never underestimate the power of kindness, because it often does more than we can imagine. The girl's choice to help turned an ordinary problem into a profound life lesson for the millionaire. It showed that status and wealth mean little when compared to compassion, and that even the smallest hands can deliver the biggest impact. Her kindness became the thread that connected two very different lives and left a mark that neither wealth nor power could ever erase. True wealth lies in character, not possessions, and this truth is at the heart of the story about the little black girl helping the millionaire fix his Mustang. The millionaire embodies material success. He owns a luxury car, lives a life of privilege, and carries himself with the pride of someone who measures value by status and wealth. Yet, when his prized possession fails him, he is powerless. All of his riches cannot start the engine, and all of his influence cannot fix the problem. In contrast, the little girl, who likely has no money, no expensive possessions, and no status, steps in and demonstrates strength, intelligence, and compassion. That contrast shows clearly that the measure of a person's true wealth is not what they own, but who they are. Character reveals itself in moments of action. The little girl could have walked by without offering help, thinking that a millionaire would never need her assistance. But her decision to step forward reflects kindness, courage, and selflessness. Those qualities reveal a richness that no bank account can provide. The millionaire, on the other hand, despite his material success, shows his lack of inner wealth at first by being helpless, perhaps even prideful or dismissive. Only through her actions does he begin to see the deeper truth: possessions may impress the world, but character is what changes it. True wealth also comes from resilience and humility, qualities the girl demonstrates naturally. She does not hesitate because of her age or background. She acts with quiet confidence. Her resilience, likely built through life experiences, allows her to stand tall even in front of someone with far more resources. This strength of character cannot be purchased. It is cultivated through upbringing, values, and inner conviction. The millionaire's car, as shiny and expensive as it is, becomes useless in comparison to the strength of her character, which not only solves the problem but leaves an unforgettable lesson behind. Another layer of true wealth is the ability to impact others positively. The girl's simple act of helping changes the millionaire's perspective, leaving him humbled and inspired. That is the mark of real richness, leaving a legacy of respect, kindness, and inspiration in the lives of others. Possessions fade, cars break down, money can be lost, but the influence of good character can last forever. The girl's character makes her unforgettable, and in that moment, she becomes far wealthier in spirit than the man she helps. This story also reminds us that possessions can create illusions, while character reveals truth. The millionaire's car made him appear powerful and in control, but when it failed, the illusion disappeared. The girl, however, carried no outward symbols of wealth, yet her actions revealed a depth of integrity and strength that outshined material displays. It is a reminder to everyone that appearances can be deceiving and that the richest individuals may not always be those with the most visible possessions, but those who carry dignity, courage, and compassion. True wealth in character also builds bridges where material wealth creates walls. The millionaire's riches may separate him from others, making people view him as untouchable or arrogant. The girl's character, however, creates connection. Her willingness to help crosses social divides and reminds both him and us that humanity is built on shared experiences, not divisions of wealth. Character unites, while possessions often divide. For the audience, the message is simple but powerful. If you want to be truly wealthy, invest in your character. Develop kindness, courage, resilience, and humility, because those are the treasures no one can take from you. Cars will rust, money can vanish, and status can fade, but the respect and love earned through character endure forever. The millionaire learned this when a child, whom he might have overlooked, revealed greater wealth in her spirit than he had in his possessions. In the end, for true wealth lies not in what you own, but in who you are. The little girl proved this by demonstrating that character has the power to humble the proud, inspire the privileged, and bridge the gap between worlds. Her ring may have been small, her hands young, and her background simple, but her character made her richer than the millionaire in the ways that truly matter. That is the kind of wealth we should all strive for, one that leaves a mark on hearts and lives long after material possessions are gone.